What I'm going to talk to you about today is exploring how a happy mind makes for a happy business. And I'm starting off by focusing particularly on mental health, but also how your physical and emotional health all interplays collectively together. So I'd like to just start by asking you all a question. What do you think of when I say the word well-being? Feel free to just call out whatever words come to mind.
Balance.
Balance? Sorry, what's that? Self-care, absolutely.
Happy.
Happy? Yeah. A couple more?
Okay today.
The whole package and
Okay today.
okay today. Oh, I love that. Yes, absolutely. So being in the moment, being present. So we can look at well-being from a very holistic perspective. So you're looking at well-being in the sense of your physical well-being, spiritual well-being, emotional, mental, and social. So this is one of the ways that you could explore what well-being really means. So from that holistic perspective, it's looking at how are you functioning on a day-to-day basis in a general sense. So not just in one aspect. You know, as it was referred to before, you know, we all have mental health, we all have physical health, we all have emotional health. And then the spiritual, social aspect of well, all comes into play really. So that's really a sort of starting point of looking at what well-being really is and the fact that you can explore it from so many different perspectives. So when I say the term mental health to you guys, what words spring to mind for you then? Someone who needs support.
Loss of control.
Resilience, loss of control.
We all have mental health.
We all have mental health. Absolutely, yeah. Depression, yeah?
Health in your head.
In your head, did you say?
Health in your head.
Health in your head, yes. Yes. Was there one more over here or did I miss that?
Anxiety.
Anxiety, absolutely. That's quite a balanced perspective actually, isn't it? You know, looking at it, we've had resilience, you know, we've had anxiety and depression. We've had different facets of looking at it in different ways. So one of the ways we could look at it is exploring it from a sort of sliding scale perspective. And I'm going to explore why this is so particularly important to focus on when it comes to your work and day-to-day life. So if you look at this scale here, on the positive side of the scale, this represents any one of us waking up one day and feeling, you know, really, really good about ourselves. We're feeling really confident, really engaged, inspired, happy, you know, just feeling like things are going really, really well. Has anyone in this room ever in their entire lives woken up feeling like that? Great, so quite a lot of hands going up there. Brilliant. So this central part of the scale there, the neutral part, represents, you know, when a day when you could wake up and feel, you know, not necessarily amazing, but not bad. Like you're feeling pretty good, pretty neutral, like things are going pretty well for you. Feeling good. Anyone ever woken up in their lives feeling like that? Yeah, okay, great. And then this other side of the scale here, representing poor mental health. A day where you might wake up and be experiencing, you know, feeling like you're struggling. Perhaps feeling quite sad, quite down, low moods, perhaps even tearful, like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. Has anyone in the room woken up feeling like that before? Okay. Haven't we just explored a human experience between us all? Yeah? So that's called being human, isn't it? We could all identify with that. We all related to what I just explained. And actually, when you look at that poor mental health end of the scale, this means that it's actually very common and perfectly normal to experience feelings of depression when you're in that state, because it's a state of well-being, or feelings of anxiety. It doesn't mean that you are depressed or you have an anxiety disorder, because looking at depression and anxiety as two of the most common forms of mental health conditions, they are symptoms first and foremost before you even look at the diagnosis of a condition. Does that make sense? The symptoms that I just described before, about feeling low, sad, down, tearful, symptoms of depression, or symptoms of anxiety, feeling, you know, a high state of worry, feeling anxious, you know, maybe a knot in your stomach, maybe feel your heart rate pick up slightly, or you have to take a breath, you know, breathe, get your breathing rhythm back on track. Those are symptoms of anxiety. So they're both universal experiences. And I believe that when we start to look at mental health in this way, that it is a sliding scale and it fluctuates, just like your physical health can fluctuate and your emotional well-being can fluctuate from day to day too. It doesn't necessarily mean that you'll feel the same all week. One day might feel different to the next depending on what's going on in your life, right? So actually, looking at it in this way, does that make it seem a little bit more accessible to talk about mental health? You know, looking at it in the sense that we start describing mental health, because sometimes when mental health is talked about, there's still this little type of stigma attached to it. Now, don't get me wrong, we've definitely come a very long way. I'm also a freelance trainer for Mind, the mental health charity, so I go to different organisations around the UK training for Mind as well. And I see so much transformation going on all the time, which is really positive to see. But there's still elements of, you know, doubt around talking about it, a little bit of taboo, because it's intangible, isn't it? When you look at physical health, is that perhaps a bit more tangible? You can, especially when it comes to obvious physical health that you can see, whether it's an injury or whether it's fitness, you can see it. So it's a bit easier to talk about, a bit easier to understand. If you go to a doctor, get a diagnosis, a healing time, etc., there's a bit of a process to it. When you look at mental health, it's silent. Yeah, you can't see it. It's intangible. So perhaps a little bit more sensitive to talk about for some people, which is perfectly fine. But when we start to talk about it in a way where we describe our mental health, we open up a little bit more accessibility in terms of relating to one another on that human level that we explored at the beginning just then. Yeah? We all can feel positive, we all can feel neutral, we all can feel like we're struggling. But it is that kind of sliding scale aspect. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah? So, in terms of a state of well-being, so this is something also really important to focus on. The fact that when you're looking at your mental, emotional, physical health, it is first and foremost describing your state of well-being. What state do you feel in today? Yeah, it's like we had that answer before earlier, you know, okay today. So, you know, what we enter into and out of different states of being all the time. You know, you've got your sleepy getting up state in the morning, sort of getting up, shower, brush your teeth, get dressed, you know, almost autopilot, you don't really think about it, yeah? Then you've got your getting to work state. Perhaps if you work in a sort of like a busy commute or in London and you're sort of a bit, you know, kind of bashed out the way or whatever, very busy, kind of got to focus, have a different kind of mindset when you're going to work. Can't really necessarily, you know, not get bashed out the way if you're in your sleepy getting up state, yeah? And then when you get to work, is it a different kind of mode? Do you switch your mindset? Right, productive mode. I've got to speak to this person, got to go to this meeting, got to do this. You have a different mode and a different mindset that you switch onto, right? When you're with friends and family, is it a different kind of vibe, a different energy? So we flow into and out of different states of being all the time, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. So actually, when we explore mental health as well from a state of well-being, again, it adds to that accessibility, right? Around talking about it, around understanding it. So what is your state of well-being like? So understanding how our state has a direct impact on our mental, physical, and emotional health is also really important. Have you guys had that experience before where maybe someone has said something to you that perhaps you found was maybe unjustified or a bit hurtful, and a thought springs to mind in that moment instantly? I can't believe they said that to me. What goes on in your body when that happens? Do you feel maybe a tightness in your chest? Do you feel your heart sink, that kind of sinking feeling? Maybe a bit of a knot in your stomach? Maybe you have a bit of tension in a different part of your body? And what about what you feel? Does that spark a feeling? Does it spark an emotional response within you? You know, feeling angry, hurt, if it's unjustified, etc. So your thoughts and your physical response in your body, your physiological state, and your feelings all are connected. Because this is one entity at the end of the day, isn't it? You can't be thriving physically and really struggling mentally, or vice versa, right? If you're a really fit, healthy person, you exercise a lot, and then suddenly one day you have an injury that puts you out of action, would that affect your mental health, perhaps? If you're used to being really fit and active and now you're out of action for a few weeks, that would affect your mental health, wouldn't it, as well as your physical health? So thinking about it from this perspective can be helpful too, just in terms of cultivating that deeper sense of self-awareness and understanding in yourself. Just start to perhaps become a little bit more mindful and take a step back next time something happens that, you know, sparks a response in you like I've just described. And think, okay, what's happening in my body right now? Let me get a bit of a deeper sense of understanding myself in a holistic sense. You know, what am I thinking? What feelings am I experiencing? And how am I feeling? You know, and just get to understand yourself, because this is really important when it comes to understanding how stress and burnout manifest in your body, because it affects everybody differently. Would you say that's fair to say? Yeah? What stresses one person out won't necessarily stress another person, and vice versa. So it's completely valid in how you feel, but sometimes we can miss those stress signals or ignore them, right? Because we're too busy, got too much to do, not enough time in a day. So this exercise I'm just exploring here, that is just one really powerful step actually. That's quite simple, but easy to do once you practice it a lot, yeah? To help you cultivate a deeper sense of self-understanding and self-awareness so you can start to learn what those signals really feel like in your body that are building up stress. So then you can start to prevent it from escalating, yeah? Because on this scale that I talked about before, really you could look at it as this sort of neutral point going into poor. Could be a bit of a stress area. Now, stress can be good for you in some ways. You know, it can spark something you need to pay attention to. It triggers that release of cortisol chemical in the brain, which triggers that fight, flight, or freeze response in the brain. You know, that part where we either take action or we want to run away from it or we freeze on the spot. And, it signals a point for us to decide what to do. But if we don't pay attention to how stress is building in our body, and it keeps escalating and building, and there's lots of little steps of building up, then that can lead to what is called burnout, right? The total sum of mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion. Like you feel depleted, like a car running on empty, there's nothing left to give. And that's when it can escalate into something more serious. So by being mindful of this and cultivating this as an exercise in your daily life can help you start to understand yourself on a deeper level in terms of understanding what the stress responses are in your body and trying to prevent that from escalating through wellbeing initiatives, exercises, etc., which is what we're exploring holistically today. So this is just a little quote from my book. So your mind is your business's greatest asset. That's one of the real core values of my business and within my book, that if you're not looking after your mind, then you could be lacking in looking after your business, and it can affect the health of your business, right? So it really does count for so much. So why should we care about what I'm exploring with you guys today? Why should you and your organisations care? So mental ill health is currently responsible for over 91 million working days lost every year and costs over 30 billion each year for UK employers. And that's more than for any other illness. So there's an incredibly strong business case nowadays for managing mental health in the workplace. And if you're a business owner and perhaps starting up or you're looking to have a team in the future, this is really important to think about now in terms of how you set up a mentally healthy culture for your business. And those of you who are working within a startup or an organisation, just bearing this in mind and thinking, how are we setting up a mentally healthy culture at work these days? What can we start to put into place? So one of the core values at my business, Karma, is around nurturing your inner success. It's not just about what people see on the outside all the time, the shiny Instagram pictures and Facebook posts and things that people choose to show, right? And also, at work, like, achievements and all this stuff, like a lot of that time it's what people choose to share, which is great and it's inspiring. But what about their backstory? What about what's going on for them? The reason that I run Karma and that I set this up is I've been a business owner since 2010 and I've run 3 different businesses in this time. So Karma's been going for about 2.5 years. But in the early years, I went from running a local dance school to then launching an international dance events company, as you do, very typical entrepreneurial spark, and leap. And we had a lot of success during that time, but it was a massive transition. And I was one of those people that hadn't really considered their mental health up to that point. I was generally a very positive, engaged and bubbly person. I love my family and friends and had, really tried to keep things in a positive perspective, but I just didn't really consider looking after my well-being and my mental health until it was too late. So what I described before about the sliding scale and stress and burnout, that can creep up on you. And research has shown that the more we resist unhelpful feelings, like, I'll just keep going, just keep doing it, I'll be fine. That classic word, fine, right? The research has shown the more we just suppress those kind of feelings, it doesn't go away, it just gets stronger and it starts to manifest in your body, physically, behaviorally, psychologically. So your body has a phenomenally smart way of signaling to you to pay attention to something. Whether we choose to or not, is another story. But, no one is that good an actor that, they can keep up for their whole lives, a performance of not, really actually being in good mental health. At some stage it does come out. And I went through burnout, I went through a spout of depression, I went through anxiety attacks on and off for about a year. And also I didn't really know that's what I was going through at the time. Hence why it's so important to raise awareness of mental health as well, because it affects so many people in terms of poor mental health, but also understand how to nurture good mental health too. So nurturing your inner success is so important. So that's something I really took time to do over a long period of time. And eventually went from having regular panic attacks to now not having had one at all in 3 years. So that just goes to show the strength of the mind, and how strengthening your mindset's like strengthening a mental muscle, right? Just like you've got physical health and your physical strength. When you want to get fit and healthy, you strengthen your physical muscles. Working on your mindset, nurturing your inner success, nurturing your well-being and your approach to life is just as important, and it can really help you thrive and flourish in your work and in life. So in terms of managing stress and preventing burnout, this is just a little visual and an exercise that I'll quickly go through with you guys. So if you looked at this well-being container as a metaphor for your body, okay? So what happens when a container fills with water? It overflows, yeah? So similarly, that's kind of what happens in our body when we are filling up with stress, right? When we've got a lot of stresses building in our body. Builds up and up and up and up, and it feels like you kind of hit a ceiling, and then there's nowhere for it to go, and it just exists and vibrates throughout your body. Has anyone felt like that before? Right? So again, your body's signaling to you to pay attention. So how can we avoid this from escalating? Yeah. So if you imagine your body like a container, and next time if you're feeling high stress levels in your body, hopefully before the point where it really reached that ceiling point, just give yourself permission to take just 10 minutes out of your day to take a bit of time for yourself. Because what's the alternative if you don't? Just keep, sorry? You drown. That's better than what I was going to say. Yeah. So that's a good visual for you, right? Yeah. So you can feel that sort of drowning sensation. You can, be overflowing. You just keep building with stress and potentially burnout, and then maybe taking time off work. That doesn't look so attractive, does it? So what's more helpful to you? I repeat, give yourself permission, because we can sometimes try to be so many things to so many people, and just giving a lot of the time to from ourselves, to our work, to others. And actually, if we keep neglecting ourselves and our well-being, then that's going to affect people around us, our relationships, our work, and then where does that lead you, right? So give yourself permission. And then you could use this container as like a drawing exercise. So you draw out on a piece of paper a container, and then you draw lines up the container, and then write in between each line all the things that are just bothering you. Get it out from here onto paper. That first step in itself is very therapeutic, because you're actually bringing it out of the jumbled thoughts, to in front of you, and you can see it and it's tangible, right? So just get to understand what it is that's bothering you, whatever you can work out. And then go through each one and just simply ask yourself these 2 questions, because it's about letting go, right? So if you imagine you had a little tap on the container and you switched it on, you think, right, what can I drain from this container? Yeah? So that's what it is. You ask yourself these 2 questions. What can I change? What can't I change? Right? So you go through each point. What can I change? What can't I change? A theme that I'm noticing coming up time and time and time again is that small changes go a very, very, very long way. It doesn't have to be complicated or convoluted, right? So you just work with what is going on for you. What can you change? If you can change something, you can do something about it, great. You can do something about it. You just might not have worked that out when it's been a jumbled thought in your mind and you've got all these other worrying thoughts going through your head, right? And then what can't you change? Sometimes it's so easy to just try and resist things that we have no control over, right? Try and pretend it's not happening, or try to take control over something we just can't take control over. So it's about cultivating a sense of acceptance around that and figuring out, okay, well, if I can't change this, how can I change my mindset around it? How can I change my approach to this situation? Because no one or nothing can really impact your internal state or change how you respond to a situation without your consent first. Yeah? So it's in with you. It's totally within your realm of choice, because we all have choice every day in our lives, right? You guys are making decisions and choices multiple times throughout the day, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. You chose to get up in the morning. You chose to come here and be here for the day and take time out of your day to be here to learn about well-being, right? So you have the choice to make. What can you change? What can't you change? I hope that exercise in its simplest format, because obviously I've got limited time today, really helps you. So I'd encourage you guys to just give that a try if you're feeling like things are getting to you, and just imagine you're just reducing the water, you're just switching the tap on, letting go of things and reducing the pressure in that container of your body. Does that make sense? Yeah, perfect. So another little takeaway that I want to give you today is to just take 1 mindful minute each day. Again, sounds quite simple, right? Small changes embedded as daily practices goes a very long way. We can all afford to take 1 minute out each day. Who thinks they can take a minute each day for themselves? I'm going to wait until everyone's hands are up. I can see. We can all do that, yeah? By that I mean just don't give yourself that feeling of, you know, oh, I have to be doing something. That's the whole point. Just give yourself a mindful minute to just take stock of what's going on for you, what's going on in your day, how are you feeling, and remember, just building that sense of understanding in your body how you feel and what perhaps needs to adjust or what you need to work with to help yourself feel calm. In that mindful minute, breathing techniques, amazing. You know, there's so much amazing studies and research into why conscious breathing techniques through your nose and out through your nose or mouth are incredibly powerful for helping you in that moment, because what it does, among many benefits, is improve your respiratory system, calm down your nervous system, and helps to sharpen your focus. So in your brain as well, it helps you to focus more clearly and improve your cognitive skills in that moment. So there's a lot of really important benefits to just catching a breath and breathing slowly and consciously. And finally, be kind to your mind. Anyone feel like you've got a little inner critic living in there sometimes that just sort of fires off all these thoughts and you're just like, no, not at all. So, you know, we have our little inner critic sometimes, but there is a little inner champion in there as well. So just practice each day as well, thinking about what that champion's saying to you. You know, being responsive to things rather than just reacting. Do we all agree it's a bit easy to just react in a situation, isn't it? On the spot, in the moment, perhaps say something that you might regret later, you know? So just be mindful of taking a pause, taking a step back. Could be taking that mindful moment there to just think about what's going on before reacting. Pause and build your confidence. When we react, sometimes that's just in response to feeling a bit out of control in that moment, right? Or we worry about if I don't say this or if this doesn't happen, then it could mean something. But actually just trust yourself, you know, pause, build your confidence in that moment and then respond. Managing change and uncertainty. These tips that I'm sharing with you can help with that as well, okay? When you're going through change, uncertainty, it can feel stressful. So taking a pause, taking a mindful minute, taking a step back to respond versus reacting can be really helpful as well. Practice switching off. So did you know, I heard recently, and I'm sure this will change, like, you know, from day to day, but the average amount of time that people spend on their mobile phones now outside of working hours, any guesses? Yeah. Wow, 8 hours. I mean, probably some people, yeah. But yeah, around 3.5 to 4 hours. And that's outside of working hours, right? So not just with mobile phones, but, you know, general technology, TVs, you know, switching off from communications, different kinds of communications, and just being and doing the things that give you a sense of balance, centeredness, makes you happy. You know, because the risk with digital technology and always being switched on is that it's endless, right? There's no limit. You know, you used to have like newspapers and magazines just for, you know, for advertising and for reading, etc., that had a beginning point and an end point, right? We don't have that now. So you switch on social media and online and it's just endless articles. Finish this, oh, go to this link, find out more about this, go to this story. Before you know it, your whole day's gone, right, if you're not careful. So just practice putting in healthy, small boundaries for yourself. How can you switch off in your day-to-day? That's not to say block out social media, right? It has its benefits too, and being online. But just give yourself moments of respite and just to be and enjoy other things in life. And then taking a few minutes each day to just be. Like I say, you don't always need to be doing. We're not human doings at the end of the day, are we? We're human beings, okay? So just allow yourself to just be. So this rounds off, in a nutshell, one of the sort of many sort of topics that I explore within my business. So like I said, we do a lot of different training courses and workshops around building your resilience, strengthening your mindset so you can put yourself first in your work and then look after your work as well as your health. So from me to you guys, I really wish you all the best, and here's to your inner and outer success.